And we just start with a representative of the United Nations from Geneva, with Anja von der Rupp. Anja. Hello, Anja.
Also das hört sich so an, als ob ihr mich schon hören könnt.
Okay, Anja, we had a coffee break. Sorry for waiting. And you are live and the stage is yours. And 6 minutes, please. Huh?
Ist das auch der richtige Screen?
Ja. Alles
wunderbar,
gut.
Wunderbar, okay.
Just
also,
go ahead, Anja.
Ja, viele Grüße hier aus Genf. Schade, dass ich nicht in Wittstock sein kann, aber das nächste Mal
versprochen. English, please.
Sorry,
Anja.
yes.
Anja,
Sorry.
English.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you. Sorry that I can't be with you today, but try for the next time. So I'm working for the World Intellectual Property Organization on climate change and food security. And the World Intellectual Property Organization is a UN specialized agency dealing with innovation and intellectual property. And we think that intellectual property and innovation and technology are not ends in themselves, but they're there to make a contribution to the global challenges that we face. And we've heard about the challenges that we face, so I won't go into that. But what I want to show is this graph, which tells about the projected growth of the different green technology areas. And on the bottom right-hand side, you can see sustainable agriculture and forestry. And what I find interesting in this regard is actually that the growth rates in that area are much higher than the other areas. But obviously that's the flip side of the challenges that we face, that the demand for green technology in that green transition is going to grow further, and that really provides opportunities for companies who offer solutions in that field. So from our side, we have 10 years ago launched an initiative which is called WIPO Green, that's supposed to enable efficient adaptation and deployment of green tech solutions. And I'm stressing here deployment because we think that also many solutions already exist, but they're not used as widely as we would hope, and that's also why we think we can make a contribution to bring together the different stakeholders. And another stream of work is the support of innovation and innovators, particularly in the developing world where the support systems are not as elaborate as they are in the industrialized countries. So one pillar of our work is the WIPO Green database, and you find green technology offers in the main fields of green tech or clean tech. We use that sort of as synonyms. And there's more than 120,000 entries, both technology offers and also demand, and the offers, they consist of both patent information that's pulled in, but also uploads by providers or those who are actively looking for technologies and are inviting providers to suggest solutions. And there's also experts. There's plenty of forest-related technologies already in the database. I won't go into that. I just highlighted a few entries. There's more than 200 entries in that regard in really different fields. So I also hope that those of you who haven't yet put their technologies in there will do so. What it will allow you is to see similar technologies, but also be automatically connected with potential demand. And what I mean with that is, I want to illustrate here with that slide. We have projects that we call acceleration projects, which basically pick an area. For instance, in this case, climate smart agriculture. And the area in which we work on this topic sort of actively in this project is Latin America. And we work with local consultants who help us reach out to organizations who are looking to deploy green technology in order to solve certain challenges, and in that case related to agriculture. So some of the examples that, and in the area of farming, it's basically either smallholder farmers or bigger farmers. And there's sort of different solutions that they are looking for, so ranging from solutions that would help sustain the soil water supply, but also new genotypes that would not be affected by extreme weather events, or new genotypes that are adapted to salinity, for instance. A few more examples from Brazil. There are certain trees in Brazil, like the acai palm trees, and they are looking for mechanical solutions that would help with the harvesting, but also with the shredder from the pruning. And now I want to switch gears. We also have a project that we have started 3 years ago, or that we run each year, which is called the IP Management Clinic. And there's one ongoing at the moment on agriculture technology, and there we advise startups and SMEs with their IP management strategies. So I heard today that many of you have mentioned that you use IP, and we also heard from Metzer Group, the corporate VC, that they are looking at the IP issues of the companies or the startups they invest in. And one thing that we have generated from this work with the companies is a sort of top 10 list of biggest mistakes that you can do with IP management. And I won't go through the entire list. I just want to highlight a few. Obviously, one is to disclose ideas that aren't yet protected, which would prevent you from, for instance, protecting them afterwards through patents. Not conducting patent, trademark, and design searches before sort of investing in further research and development of your products. So in that way, you wouldn't know what's going on, and you might be wasting resources because things already exist. Then there's often what we see, in particular with spin-offs, for instance, that it's not clear who owns the IP, but also with employment contracts in the companies, who would own the IP that is the intellectual property that is generated, or if you work together with third-party providers. Then, unfortunately, the IP management is not a one-off thing. So another field to watch is what your competitors do and what IP they might apply for or that already hold. Another one is to not take stock of your own new IP that you're generating, of your intellectual assets, and that requires taking stock of your ideas regularly. Then also very often with trademarks, know-how is that there's a lack of documentation what's coming on, but that's a bit related also to the previous point. And then very often, and I've worked in a short stint also for a VC firm, is that the companies don't set aside a budget for the IP protection because unfortunately it doesn't come for free. So please also take that into consideration. And then one of the last, or my last, but one of the major point is that I see very often in my work that the companies protect their IP in one market, usually where they're based, but they fail to look at what are actually the biggest markets where they are planning to sell or market their technology, and so you would have to protect also in these jurisdictions, because unfortunately intellectual property is limited to the countries in which you register. So you would have to make some careful analysis of what your plans are for selling your products, and then make sure that you also protect your assets in those different markets. So, as I said, that's not a one-off thing. That's something that you should do regularly.
Could you come to the
take
end?
Stock where your plans, your business plans might have changed, and where you have new ideas, so that you can adjust your IP strategy, because the IP strategy always follows the business strategy. From our side, we have developed a few tools. I just mentioned two quickly. One is an IP strategy checklist to help you go through the issues.
Anja, could you come to an end?
Ja, ich bin sofort durch, und and then also a checklist to prepare for licensing negotiation. And that's already the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention, and hope to be in touch.
Okay.
Thanks.
The next presenter is Plant for Planet.
Sehen Sie auf meinen Bildschirm?
Alles gut, 6 Minuten bitte.
Okay. Hi, thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak at your event. I'd like to talk about how reforestation can be part of the solution to tackle climate crisis. So my name is Katharina. My name is Katharina, I'm 21 years old, and I'm a volunteer at Plant for the Planet, and have been involved with Plant for the Planet for the last decade. So I started at 11 years old by giving speeches, talk to companies, politicians, and representing Plant for the Planet at a bunch of different events, and also, of course, encouraging other children and adults to join our movement and to join the action against climate crisis. Shortly, what is Plant for the Planet? So Plant for the Planet is a global children and youth initiative. We aim to restore 1 trillion trees to offset climate crisis. In line with this, we are in charge of the Trillion Tree campaign, which was initiated by the UN in 2006 as a Billion Tree campaign. So far, 14 billion planted trees have been reported to the campaign. Of those, 77 million trees have been planted by Plant for the Planet ourselves, and also 200 participating tree planting projects on our platform. I will talk about that in just a second. We understand trees as time jokers. By absorbing CO2, they give us valuable time to adapt our electricity mix, our economy, our lifestyles, like daily life, to climate crisis and like climate neutral and climate friendly way of living. Of course, we don't only plant trees, we also educate and empower children and youth to become climate justice ambassadors and speak up for their own future. So, because it's their future that we're talking about. We do that in so-called academies, like one-day workshops, where they learn a lot about like climate crisis, greenhouse emissions, how the consequences already affect people in their everyday life, and also will affect their future, and also learn how to give speeches, how to present something, how to organize maybe an event or themselves. And of course, we also plant trees. That's always the highlight for the kids, as you can see on the picture. Shortly about our story. Our inspiration is Wangari Maathai. She was a Nobel Peace Laureate from Kenya, Africa, and has planted over 30 million trees with a lot of other women in just 30 years. And when Felix, our founder, had to give a speech or like a presentation more like that in his class in 2007, he was inspired by her story and by her work for climate crisis and planting trees. that he also called up to want to join this movement and planted the first tree at his school. And then Plant for the Planet began, kind of was born. More people joined in the region, then also nationally and internationally. And just 4 years later, he spoke in front of the United Nations and called the politicians and diplomats there to action and to plant 1 trillion trees. Just shortly about the year 2019, so we introduced the planting platform because, of course, it's nice when we know how to plant trees and that we talk about that, but it's also hard to plant trees in our everyday life. So by just a few clicks, you can do that. I will talk about that in a second. And first, I present to you a tree study that was also issued in 2019. So, because, of course, when you want to plant or bring back 1 trillion trees, you have to know how many trees exist on Earth. Everywhere where it's screen on this map, trillion trees exist. In total, 3 trillion trees exist. That was a study by the ETH Zurich. So Tom Crowther and his team and colleagues of researchers calculated that and also presented that there's space for 1 trillion more trees on Earth. So everywhere where it's yellow on the map, trees can be planted to tackle climate crisis and to have a time joker. But that's good if we know that ourselves, but we also have to come to account to action. That's why we plant our trees ourselves in Mexico on the Yucatan Peninsula, where you can see the red white dot. We have our own planting location. Since 2015, we have planted over 10 million trees there. We plant 41 different species, for example, the trumpet tree that you can see on the picture on the right-hand side. Because Mexico is a different climate zone, the trees grow much faster than they would grow, for example, in Germany or other European countries, and therefore absorb CO2 more quickly. Plant for the Planet employs 124 people there who plant and care for these trees on daily basis. So with our planting project, we can also create many jobs in local communities. And of course, we also have a restoration center there. So they're doing research and try to become better and really have the scientific proof that we do the right thing there. So as I mentioned before, the Plant for the Planet platform was founded because what good is it to us if we do our best and bring back as many trees as possible when other people don't participate? Because alone we never can manage to plant enough trees against global warming. On the platform you find over 200 different organizations that already do that. And already plant trees or protect forests and restore forests worldwide. As you can see, a lot of green dots worldwide activities are active there. If you can have a little time afterwards in the next coffee break, maybe just click through it. You can easily find it on our website. And there's also possible to plant trees, as easy as ordering pizza from the couch. You can plant trees online just for a few cents or euros or US dollars. And you also can create your own tree counter, like a personal one, plant trees, ask people to give you trees, for maybe birthday or other holidays or events. And also you can do this as a company and also implement that in your website. So as a widget, your tree counter can be easily integrated into your homepage and show your engagement for climate crisis and to fight that with us. So there are many different ways to do that and to work with Plant for the Planet. Just presented you a short overview. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any further questions, just feel free to reach out to us, send us a message, and thank you very much.
Thanks. Dieter Blume ist nicht mehr. Gut. Okay. HNE. Da ist er. Bitte sehr.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks much for the introduction. Thanks much, Ulf. Thanks much to Swiss Chrono for hosting this event. Very nice event. I made already quite some nice contacts, and we now leave the big world, we now leave the global scale, and we move back to this very nice federal state of Berlin and Brandenburg, and we move back to pure research. My name is Tobias Kremer. I'm professor for forest utilization and timber markets at Eberswalde University for Sustainable Development. Probably some of you know me. I think Some of our graduates are working for Swiss Chrono already. And myself, I think at least once per year, I'm here visiting the nice plant here. What do I want to present? I want to present a research project, Adapt Waldholz. Obviously, the acronym is not working in English. So in English, it's Adaptive Forest Research Management for a Sustainable Timber Industry in the Brandenburg-Berlin region. This is a project we are quite happy with, actually, that we got that. It's a Regulus, or we were applying for this in a BMBF call on regional innovation groups for a climate protecting forest and timber industry with a total funding for our consortium. You see our partners below with in total 2.5 million euros. For a university like ours, this is quite much. I know we were talking about quite different sums of money, but for us, we were quite happy with that. What do we want to do in this project? In general, we want to develop an adaptive forest wood management system using pine as an example for the sustainable development of rural areas. What does that mean? We want to create, or we want to improve this whole value chain from the forest to the manufacturer, to the producer of different products. On the one hand side, this is like content-wise, I will go into that in a minute, but we also want to establish an innovation group. I will talk about that in a minute as well. This is where you come into the game as an interdisciplinary research space. So what we do see over and over again, everybody's doing his or her research, but in the end, we don't bring that together, and we don't take practice with us. In the end, we do have some very nice research results, we have very nice publications, but no one is using our results. And that's why we want to bring that together, different researchers from different disciplines, together with people from practice, and we want to bring that together, what you do see down here. No, wrong direction. We want to bring that together, what you just saw in this InnoForum Forest and Wood. No, it's not working anymore. Here, we want to establish what you do see down here, InnoForum Forest and Wood, as a forum for practitioners and researchers to exchange not only knowledge, but even more important for us, we want to get to know research needs from practice so we can discuss how can we address these needs, how can the practitioners exchange people like some of the companies that are here already, how can we bring them together to really create something new. 2 more slides to go. How do we do all that? On the one hand side, we really will go into the forest. We will develop new silvicultural approaches. You know that portion of pine in Brandenburg will decrease. We have to reform, reshape our forest, and we think we have quite some nice ideas how we can, on the one hand side, keep up the supply with pine in the region, but we can also enrich that with other tree species, with new management approaches. We will do that in real plots, but we will also simulate that. Everybody's talking about digital twins, so do we. We will do a scan of our forests, and we will simulate different management schemes here as well. What else do we want to do? We want to develop new timber harvesting systems, probably not too new, but with new frameworking conditions. Whole Brandenburg will be FSC certified in 2 or 3 years' time, so we need new approaches to still be able to deliver the raw material to companies like yours. So we will develop new harvesting concepts, logistics concepts, to, in the end, that would be kind of our vision. We want to allocate the biomass as perfectly as possible according to the off-taker's needs. So we know exactly who wants what, and on the other side, we know exactly where do we find these qualities in our forest stands, and then we bring that together so everyone gets exactly the wood he or she needs. In the end, we will also develop new products using pine. you know, when talking about wooden houses here, all standards, all norming, everything is focused on spruce. So we will do that for pine. My colleague Uli Schwarz, who was here this morning, he already left, he will be part of that as well. And we saw some approaches on that as well. We will come up with new ideas for utilizing byproducts. In our case, we are at the moment, together with Max Planck, developing boards on the basis of bark. So using bark, pressing bark, different types of bark, and the results at the moment are quite promising. Finally, we want to create this InnoForum Wald und Holz, Forest and Timber, as you can see here, open platform. So we want to bring, as said, people from business, from practice and science together to exchange ideas and in the end to come up with something new. That's it in very short. Thanks much for your attention. I would be very happy having some of you with us. Just contact me. We will have like workshops every 3 to 4 months. You don't have to participate every time, but it would be very nice seeing some of you in Eberswalde again. Thanks much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patrick Worms. I'm trying to share my screen here. Give me a second. My computer is waking up. No, I don't want to update Teams right now. Thank you. Can you see my screen? Marvelous. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an absolutely wonderful series of presentations so far. But it is after lunch, and many of us are growing tired. So what I'm going to do is what the organizer asked me to do, which is to really give you inspiration. And I'm going to be focusing on how we can really grow everything that we need, not only the wood and the fiber, but the food that we need to do. My name is Patrick Worms. I'm the president of the International Union of Agroforestry. I'm a senior science policy advisor for the Center for International Forestry Research and World Agroforestry, and I'm vice president of the European Agroforestry Federation. So, the problem that we face is agriculture. And the reason why agriculture is a problem is because it consumes an enormous amount of resources and employment and creates an extraordinary amount of greenhouse gas emissions to generate a tiny amount of global GDP. This is a broken industry. Growing stuff is a losing industry, and growing stuff is the industry we have to fix. It is also an industry that's extraordinarily damaging to the future of our children. This chart shows the degree of land degradation you see around the planet, and while we typically think of land degradation as being something that affects the poor world, it also affects the breadbaskets of the planet. These pictures were taken in Europe, not far from where I live in Belgium, and they show erosion when the wind blows and erosion when the rain is a little bit too strong. This is a catastrophe. It has to stop. Finally, agriculture, for all its magnificence, it feeds us, is something that generates an extraordinary proportion of the greenhouse gas emissions we have to deal with. Depending on how you measure, somewhere between 20%, the chart on the right, and over 40%, the chart is not on the screen, but over 40% depending on how you measure. However, we can fix that. And we can fix that if we stop this dichotomy that we grow food here and that we grow fiber there. We've got to mix things up. In practice, we've got to mix everything up. And good agriculture, good production, depends on mixing only 2 elements with our crops. The management of trees and the management of livestock, and sometimes the management of livestock in trees. These systems are known as agroforestry systems, and they come in 3 broad classes. The silvopastoral systems, where you have animals and trees in the same production unit, and you have examples here from Poland, from Finland, from Burkina Faso, and from Portugal. The silvo-arable systems, where you're integrating tree into crop production systems, and the examples here from Zambia, the UK, Sri Lanka, and France. And the best systems of all, but the most difficult ones to integrate into a modern market economy, the polycultures, where very many different things are growing together, and where the productivity is by far the highest of all of these systems. You don't have to take my word for it that these things matter. You can just look at the reports of the IPCC. The special report on climate change and land that came out last year clearly identifies agroforestry as the go-to solution if you're interested in something that's cheap and does food security, land degradation, desertification, adaptation, and mitigation. Now, just a few words, and I have my little clock running here, so I'm not going to go over time, about how trees help. The first reason they do is because they have deep root systems. That means they can grab nutrients where crops cannot grab them, and these nutrients fall onto the soil surface in the form of leaf litter, where they rot and become available to crops. They buffer extreme weather events. They protect you against drought, at least some of the drought, not the strongest ones, obviously, and they protect you against storms by helping water percolate down branches and trunks and roots into the soil, where that water becomes available to your crops. They help groundwater recharge at medium densities, at high population densities. The canopy cover is too high, it mostly evapotranspirates. In open degraded soils, the canopy cover is too low, it mostly runs off. But in this kind of mixed settings, the kind of settings that correspond to agroforestry systems, you do maximum groundwater recharge. And as Europe is experiencing more and more droughts, that's certainly something that's extremely interesting for all of us. They reduce nitrate leaching because the roots of the trees will capture excess nutrients that farmers may have sprayed onto their crops. And they are in turn protected by the crops. In forestry systems on the left, most of the rootlets are close to the surface. In agroforestry systems on the right, most of the trees' rootlets are further down because the soil horizons close to the surface are occupied by the crops. When you have a drought, in the forestry system, the trees stop growing. In the agroforestry system, they keep on growing. Finally, they utilize the available energy from sunlight much, much better than this picture, which comes from a seed company which is supposed to tell me how wonderful their seeds are. What I see is a picture of Europe in summer when you have 16 hours of daylight and there's no photosynthesis going on. Here, at least, photosynthesis continues. Biomass is still being produced while these crops are being harvested. It's for that reason that the land equivalency ratio, the amount of land you need for 1 hectare of agroforestry to produce as much as 1 hectare of agroforestry, if you segregate it into agriculture and forestry, is always higher than 1, and in temperate Europe is typically around 1.3, 1.4, as in this theoretical example. Finally, and these are my last 2 slides, these systems are extraordinarily productive when it comes to capturing carbon. What this is the predicted rate of the sequestration of carbon dioxide for a poplar agroforestry system. Imagine a field of wheat with alleys of poplar at distances wide enough for farm machinery to do its job, managed on a 30-year rotation. And what you see is that you have annual sequestration rates that hover somewhere around 8 to 12 tons per hectare. And that, of course, means that the total amount of carbon we could capture by integrating trees into agricultural production systems would be quite significant, and that's worth money to farmers as well. So farmers get resilience, they get higher productivity, they can sell the timber and the fiber, they can make more money from carbon, and the wood industry has a new resource for its raw material that does not depend on damaging more natural forests or taking more land under production. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention.
This was finally a nice pitch in the afternoon. And this is a nice model for you all, how to pitch. Keep people awakened. Nice pitch about agroforestry. Yeah. Next, Bauhaus Erde, a very female topic. Anne, your stage.
Thank you so much. Let's try to keep awake. So let me present to you Bauhaus Earth. Who are we? We are really a recently founded non-profit organization, an enterprise to catalyze this required transformation that we've been talking about most of the day. You see here one of the co-founders, sorry, let's go back. One of our co-founders, John Schellnhuber, I think he has been mentioned before. I'm in the picture? No? It's Miko, okay. Am I not loud enough? Okay, for the other speakers, okay. For the listeners. Yes, John Sheldon has been mentioned before by Kilian in his talk. He's one of our co-founders, and his vision is really, or is saying that the climate emergency really needs this tectonic shift that we've been talking about for most of this day, and Bauhaus Earth offers a very practical solution to this. So that's why I want to present you in some slides what we do. So our vision is the construction sector, the built environment, to what if bio-based materials and buildings and infrastructure of bio-based materials help to really create cities that go beyond zero, so beyond zero carbon emissions, and really serve as carbon sinks. So I think this is one of the crucial questions. So to go from this picture, from concrete deserts with negative environmental impacts, as you know, to a carbon-positive organic architecture with a high quality of life. And when we think about this vision, we think about it in a process, at different elements. So one of the elements that we were talking about is the substitution factor. So using bio-based materials to substitute steel and cement and create an impact through this way. The other one is the storage factor, that buildings and infrastructure can be made of organic material and that thereby store carbon securely for a long time. And we've been talking about plants already very much, that plants can and must be regrown to capture more carbon through their photosynthesis. So this sequestering process. And the way we work is really integrating cost-cutting edge science with practice. So we really both like a make tank and a think tank. We go from technological innovations to designing projects, advising city regions as well, with offering toolkits, policy and financial advice, but also really research. I'm a researcher myself, and this is where I stand in this picture. And I'll give you some examples of some of the work we do. From the make side, this is our space we have. It's a maker space in Marienpark, Berlin. This is where one of our locations is. It's a really vibrant space of innovation. Here you see some of my colleagues experimenting with new designs of bio-based materials. Actually, others experimenting with compacting bricks. So also going beyond bio-based, actually, to be honest. Here you see an example of geo-based materials, but in a very circular and regionalized vision. So yeah, feel free to visit us at this space. This is really from the make side. We have a fellowship program. I just quickly like to present the Bauhaus Earth Fellowship. We have 2 open calls a year. And the fellows develop really in collaboration with us some experimental projects or structures. And typical durations are between 3 to 12 months. New calls open in summer this year, so if you're interested, just check our website and feel free to apply. Material Cultures is just the first fellowship, and we're really excited and collaborating on a bio-based building in Brandenburg. We're also really anchored in the region. We have projects running in Potsdam to really showcase our construction principles with really circularity principles and a regional concept. We're planning a demonstrator building in the city center of Potsdam, made from bio-based materials, that will act as a proof of concept that is both scalable and replicable. So we're in the planning phase. You see here a picture near Dortowstrasse in Potsdam, where we are planning this building. Some examples from my side, from the research side. A core question that we are asking ourselves is, sorry, this is a bit slow. Of course, the crucial question about the potential of cities to act as carbon sinks. And the imminent follow-up question about supply and demand of timber or bio-based materials in general. And the way we go about this is really to think about it as a cycle, to analyze the ecosystem surrounding the cities, providing the needed bio-based materials for the increasing demand in the urban centers, hopefully increasing timber cities in future. So to think of it as a process and as a cycle, and actually quantify and model this system to be able to answer the question, do we globally have enough material to fulfill our vision? And what about regions? Is there some scarcity regionally? Where is, how are different bio-based materials distributed across the world? And really go in depth in different regions. We've just started a project where we have case studies in Bhutan, which is really an exciting case, in South Africa, Indonesia, thinking about bamboo, and in Berlin-Brandenburg. So this is just started, and I'm happy to present more results maybe in a year to come, if I may be invited again. Yeah, we're happy if you get in touch with us. There are various channels you can reach us, and we're located in Berlin and Brandenburg, but also virtually. Yeah, we're happy to get in touch. Thank you. There are 2 recent publications here posted if you're interested. You find them on our website. Thank you.
Okay, our last presentation before the coffee break. Andreas is already online. Andreas?
Can you see it?
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone from Paris. I'm also very sorry not to be here, but at least I speak to you from the country where cinema was invented. So my name is Andreas Nikolaus Kleinschmidt from Lengefeld. I'm the owner and CEO of the company Homo Silvestris Europaea. And I would like to give your attention to, we heard great speeches before, but what is also very important if we want to realize the circular economy concept and boost the green transition, we need more education training on this concept and also what this means, that this will be better understood and applied. We have here on this slide, I just for stimulating a little bit the idea, you see last year the European Commission services had launched the European Innovation Scoreboard, and on the scoreboard you see the countries from Europe which are leaders in innovations, you see countries which are strong innovators, and you have the moderate innovators and emerging innovators. But when you look actually at the scale, like let's say the emerging innovators, that will speed up, that will be there. But what can be put behind the innovation leaders is already education and training, which in those countries play a key role and also have been permanently modernized and used. But the educational programs and training programs we need have to take into consideration also the grand societal challenges, the sustainable development goals as we have them. I put here on the slide, as you know, like what the world we're living in, it was said we have disruptive events coming up. We see the role of women is increasing. This is why I put the Spice Girls there, because they had a mega effect also on the role of girls in society. We see that we had the first pandemic that had hit our generations in the 80s with HIV/AIDS, but what we have all gone through recently also with the pandemic of Corona, COVID. Also, all these uncertainties at the same time, we see we live only on one world, which everybody has perfectly also addressed in the speeches before, and we're connected. These are just to tell you that in the educational programs today, we also have to take this into consideration when we work on that. Thank you, Anne, for a very inspiring presentation we've heard on the Bauhaus Erde. I also choose the New European Bauhaus as an example. What does this mean on all the different levels to have the training and educational programs adapted to that? I come from the forest-based sector. That's my background. That's where I'm working also with different clients. And then we have launched the Nordic Bauhaus and the Wood for Bauhaus alliances for promoting also renewable materials, specifically wood-based materials, in the concept of the New European Bauhaus. And we know that education and training is essential. There's the latest figure from a study that had been carried out by the Finnish Ministry of Agriculture, and it's clear that 50% of the current workforce, you can say, are employees in the bioeconomy, will all retire in 2040. So we have to find a way, how do we get the people inside our bioeconomy or circular economy concept? There are 2 things I would like to stress you where I also have been involved. The one is the Wood Circus, and there's a white paper from the Wood Circus that is composed of 6 maxims that address the first transformation processes in the woodworking industries and their performance under the framework or under the umbrella of the circular bioeconomy concept. And the 4th maxim is clearly dedicated to that we need more training, we need much more educational programs, but on all kinds of levels, because we need skilled people who are able to realize that and take part that this concept and also the boosting of the green transition really takes place. For 1.5 years, there's a new initiative also by Austria and Finland, and including all European countries, also Norway and Switzerland, which is called the Wood Pop. It's a policy platform for collaborating between public services to boost, so to say, and to develop policies that favor renewable materials, but specifically dedicated to the use of forest-based materials, wood materials, in construction and all related other sectors, including, of course, renovation and other things. There's a technical working group that is dealing with education and training programs, but also what kind of modernization has to be done. This group will be led by Slovenia. This is why I put it in there. So we need new educational programs. We need also to address this in a way that we also take into consideration the mindset that has to change, kind of like going from this, and we'll get in my next slide much more into detail, from this linear economic model to a real circular economic model. And we need much more adapted vocational trainings for that the people who are working with us and those who are realizing that understand the concept. I have here a very brief overview on the circular economy stakeholders' role, and there you have the political decision makers, either on European, national, or regional level, who usually develop strategies and programs perfectly adapted to that, or should take this into consideration, but they also have to understand the concept. What does that mean? We have companies who have to identify or can identify their new potential and create new partnerships, or either change their own business model whenever that is suitable and economically viable. We heard in about great speeches before, my very special thanks to that the investors are already looking at that from public, private, and the risk sharing for financing is a key role also that we need much more into that. For the society, we have to raise the awareness and to support that people understand the repair or the reuse and recycling of materials. And I think that the process is ongoing. Last but not least, as I said, education is very important from the very first beginning, but also on the top level of company owners and others to see the potential and really to apply for that and become kind of like a first uptaker and a driver for this concept. I mentioned the Wood Circus you see here. This is the white paper that had been developed specifically for the European First Transformation processes. You can download it on the website of the Wood Circus. The white paper is available in 10 different European languages, including 1 regional language. And there you can find a lot of good ideas, direction given also what can be done in your regional, local area, community, or national level. It is used by the Commission services and by different regions already to promote and expand kind of like this very important role, specifically of the European woodworking industries, who is the green driver or the green engine for sustainable growth. Well, last but not least, this is, you see, what I'm working in, and I'm dealing with this kind of issues. What I had presented to you before briefly is kind of also based on my experience in the last 30 years working in the European forest-based sector on these kind of important issues, strategies, and programs, and also right now to connect people and see how we can make it happen, that we really get to the transition. You have my contact details if you're interested in, and I'm very grateful that I had been invited and to be with you, and I regret that I couldn't be there physically. Thank you very much.
Our final 8 pictures see whether our remote experiment is going to work. We have 2 physical pictures today, 1 lady and who else? Felix Burkhalter, is he here? Oh, I'm happy. So, welcome everybody again. And I might ask you, think about who is probably going to join us tomorrow for the forest excursion. We talk. Okay. Lucas?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, nice question. Very rare question today. Yes, the stage is yours. Share your screen and go ahead.
We'll go up to the top here and away we go. Fantastic. Alrighty. Looks like we are all good to go. There's a little bit of lag on the YouTube, so I'll assume that I'm live right now. Well, thank you so much, Ulf and Anne-Marie, for having me here and everyone else for organizing this. My name is Luke Schubert. I'm here to talk with you and share with you a little bit about what we're doing at the Open Forest Protocol. So to begin with, we'll start with a little bit of a video.
My name is Sam. I'm calling in
showing you some of our projects that we are working with.
From OASA.
Hola, buenas. Mi nombre es Juan Pablo y estamos aquí en Diamante Luz, una finca ubicada en el sur de Costa Rica.
Hi everyone, my name is Fiona Njeri from Kenya.
Hi, my name is Pavlos and welcome to my foundation. Today we're standing at Padvaré project.
I'm Fabio and I'm from Urbem, an environmental NGO based in Lisbon, Portugal.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Peter from Sampo Conservas, Tanzania.
We are a land conservation Web3 protocol. We're starting here with the first project in Portugal called the Traditional Dream Factory, which is a prototype for building a regenerative way of life. We've reforested this hill here behind me with about 3,000 trees.
Nosotros aquí estamos tratando de regenerar tierras y regenerar vida humana también para aprender con la naturaleza.
Greener Communities program that works with youth and communities and schools.
So I'll go ahead and pause it there and move on over just for the sake of time. So there were a couple things in that video that I want to highlight to everyone. First off are some of the products that we've built that'll help make this a little bit more concrete as we go along in terms of what we built to help provide digital measurement, reporting, and verification tools. For the second thing that you saw was the vast diversity of forest projects that exist and are present throughout the world that are doing fantastic work on the ground, trying to restore ecosystems and sequester carbon and do other climate positive actions. We've heard from many of them and many of the people involved in those types of projects. And so the reason that we are here at Open Forest Protocol is to help make sure that those projects succeed. One of the biggest problems that we've seen, though, is a lack of financing and funding for those projects. The primary vehicle for financing many of these projects is what's known as the voluntary carbon market. If you're unfamiliar, this is a global commodities market that's used to drive financing to these types of projects. Primarily, this is done by quantifying the amount of carbon or other types of greenhouse gases that are then durably and additionally sequestered within a type of project, usually a reforestation project, for example. There are a lot of problems, though, however, with this type of system. There are extremely high upfront costs in order to access. If you've talked with anyone or know anyone that's involved in the VCM, the voluntary carbon market, they would probably be able to relate many of these problems to you. There's really high upfront costs. This necessitates a minimum project size in order to be cost effective. And it also additionally takes a long time in order to get connected and onboarded to the existing carbon accreditation standards that exist there. So what we're doing is essentially creating a more streamlined version of a carbon accreditation process using digital tools and using an immutable, transparent ledger to store all of this information. So how OFP streamlines this is essentially by leveraging the power of blockchain technology purely as a way of recording data. It's a fantastic tool for capturing data and displaying that transparently for everyone to see. So what we've done is created a selection of tools that help prepare monitoring for projects to help organize and upload their information. They actually go to the ground physically to collect information using a mobile app that we've developed. It's a geolocated, it provides geolocated photos and then uploads and organizes all of that information to be verified by a distributed group of validators that we have on our protocol. They're all able to see this information and then evaluate the legitimacy of that. And what this leads to is the generation of carbon credits for the projects that participate in this system. So real quick, this is a little quick video of one of our products that we've created, and this just helps, I think, hopefully make this process a little bit more concrete. So at the end of all of this process, the projects that come on board that register a project with OFP, they essentially upload their information to our products. And this is a product, our Ecosystem Explorer. You can view it online. What you're seeing on the right side is the geodata file of the actual perimeter of this project in Guatemala. And what you're seeing on the left side is the actual information that's uploaded from the ground and in these statistically significant number of sampling plots that are overlaid on the project area. And so what we're seeing and what we've been able to develop is a really flexible and open system that enables projects of any type to be able to come on board and be able to monitor and report and have their project data verified in the pursuit of achieving carbon accreditation and getting more financing for their projects. So just to make this a little bit more concrete, we have some of these projects. So on the left side, you can see one of our products. This is how projects come on board. This is how they access the blockchain to store their information of their forest. On the in the middle and on the right there, you can see them actually using the mobile app that we've developed to help record this tree data and to then be able to share that online for everyone to see. So, and here are some others with just some other products that we built. I'm running a little bit short on time, so I'll really just finish by showing you a little bit about some of the projects that we're doing. So what we're enabling these projects to do is to be able to streamline and access these types of financing using these digital tools and be able to participate in the VCM in a much more open, transparent, and streamlined manner. So if you're at all interested in learning more, feel free to visit openforestprotocol.org. Really appreciate everyone for being here. And if you have any questions, hit me up. You can reach me on LinkedIn or shoot me a message at luke@openforestprotocol.org. So again, big thank you to everyone else, and have a good day.
Thanks. So our next presenter is from Sweden. Hello, Malin.
Hello.
Hello, Sweden. So the stage is yours, and go ahead with your pitch. Share your screen.
All right, I will share my screen. We'll see. Now you see it. So you see it. Hi, I'm Malin Arpsten, and today I will tell you about Bright Day Graphene and how we make alchemy by turning a residual product from the pulp and paper industry into the super material graphene. So, have you heard about graphene? This amazing material that is strong, flexible, and that conducts electricity with no resistance. It's also 2D material, only one layer of atoms thick, which means that we get a lot of surface area, but almost no weight. And this makes it perfect for energy storage applications. And I strongly believe that green energy storage is the key to a sustainable future. So the green energy storage is the key to the future because we need energy storage everywhere for electrical transportation and for renewable energy production, for instance. But the problem today is that most batteries contain a lot of toxic materials and rare earth metals. And our goal is to replace them with our green graphene. And a group of scientists have actually found that most of these materials can be or has the potential to be replaced by graphene. And we are convinced that our graphene is especially suited for that because we have developed it with this type of applications in mind. So we have very large and thin flakes, which gives us good heat and electrical conductivity. And we also call our graphene green because it's made from a renewable source and we use no toxic chemicals in our production process. So if we look at the graphene market, it's dominated by the graphene nanoplatelets, which is the graphene powder with very small and often thick flakes, which gives them properties that are less suitable for energy storage applications. And you also often have poor quality in this type of material. On the other hand, there is the CVD graphene or the monolayer graphene, which has really good properties and high quality, but it can't really be mass produced, which makes it very expensive and therefore hard to base commercial products on. So we saw a hole in the market here that we wanted to fill where we can provide both volume and value in a high quality bulk material. And the graphene market is predicted to grow rapidly in the upcoming years. And a large piece of that will be the energy storage sector. And we intend to take a piece of this and our estimated revenue is $11.3 million in 2027. And we will focus primarily to start with on the European battery market, because that's also expanding very quickly at the moment. So this map shows all of the gigafactories, battery factories planned or being built in Europe in the upcoming years. And if only one of these gigafactories would decide to use graphene in their batteries, they would need approximately, for just that one gigafactory, approximately 250 tons of graphene. So there's a huge potential here. So my name is Malin Alpsten, and I am the CEO and co-founder of BrightDay Graphene. My background is in the financing industry, where I worked for many years with business development, strategy, and leadership. But for the last 10 years, I've been an entrepreneur, and for the last 6 years, working with bringing green graphene to the market. And I do this together with Anna Karlsson, who is my co-founder and CTO, and she is also the brilliant inventor behind this process. And Anna did her PhD on fuel cells at Universität Ulm in Germany, actually. And she was frustrated with the materials used in fuel cells because they were toxic. And that's how the idea for this company was born, really. On our team, we also have other supporters like Victor, Johanna, and Annie, who are all contributing greatly to our work. And together we form a perfect team to bring this to the market. So far, we have been focusing a lot on building partnerships with potential customers, and we have worked with Alfa Laval, IKEA, and Altris, for instance, helping them to integrate our material in their products. And we have been quite successful in receiving funding for our projects, and we have gotten money both from the Sweden Innovation Agency, Vinnova, but also the European Innovation Council, for instance. We also have other partners, and we have also received some awards during the years, where we are especially proud to have been selecting one of the top 33 coolest tech startups in Sweden. It's a lot of fun. So looking ahead now, we need to scale our production, because today we have a very small production in our lab, and we can't really provide all the samples that we are asked for, and it's no fun to have to say no. So we need to build an industrial line, and we plan to have that up and running in 2024, and that is planned to produce 1 ton graphene material a year. And then from there, we will, of course, continue to scale our production. But for this first industrial line, the plans are pretty much already in place. And that's why I'm here today, because to build this, we need an investment of 3 million euros. And I hope that I managed to make you curious at this, and that you will contact me and join us on our journey ahead. Thank you so much for listening. All right.
Felix.
Hi, I'm Peter. Actually, my colleague Felix is here, but I'll do the presentation since we've only got a short amount of time. Orbica were established in 2017. We have about 32 staff members, and we develop a geospatial development platform. So what does that mean? Well, if we think of satellites, the satellite industry currently has over 1,000 satellites for Earth observation that are taking pictures of the Earth every single day. But that data needs to be managed. It needs infrastructure so that you can then analyze it to solve your business problems. And that's what Orbica does. We provide the platform that enables organizations and developers to develop applications and perform analysis on geospatial data. That means we provide bespoke tools and workflows that are designed for everyone, that are interoperable, that have transparent pricing, and that allows for controlled governance on the administration level of the technology. So I want to give you a couple of examples of how the geospatial platform is used currently within forestry applications. And the first one I wanted to mention is biodiversity. We've heard it here a couple of times already today. So we have some interesting customers that develop applications using our platform as the infrastructure layer that orchestrates their application to help developers determine the biodiversity net gain when they're doing development sites around the world. The second one is fire. So fires contribute about a 2% cost to the worldwide global GDP. So our platform allows fire and emergency departments to perform on a national scale forest fire risk analysis. So taking a satellite imagery that's produced on a weekly basis and then determining the weekly risk of forest fires in a country. And the last one I wanted to give you was a forest farmer's tree planting application that's used for both harvesting and planting trees. So I have a couple of screenshots where this is an open application powered by the platform where forestry owners, farmers can go and look at what woodlots they have and then determine the cost that they have of either harvesting those woodlots or planting new trees on the woodlots. So if I click through, you can see the ability to draw a woodlot, to draw a road, and then determine a cost for harvesting the trees on the specific woodlot. So in this case, we should, sorry. And now I've got a clicker problem. All right. Yeah, so in this case, once the user has imported their, the location of their woodlot, what the application does is it goes and looks at the elevation, it looks at the climate in the areas, it looks at the cut fill analysis of that particular woodlot, and then it looks at the transportation cost to the nearest mill, out to the nearest port as the shipping costs, and then the potential profit for that amount of wood in that woodlot. Now we do the reverse as well for tree planting, where an owner maybe has bare pasture, bare land. They can then go and calculate the cost of establishing a woodlot, of maintaining that woodlot in different tendering methods, and then look at the total carbon stock they can get on a variety of different tree species. So what we're seeking, we're not here seeking investment, but we are here seeking foundation customers. So if you're an organization that thinks that geospatial data could benefit you, could benefit your organization, if you're a technology company that are working with geospatial data and think that a geospatial infrastructure platform could help you develop your applications, we're here to talk to you. So please get in contact with myself or Felix. That's my contact details, and learn more on the website orbica.com. Thank you.
Hello.
Ah, yes.
On screen.
Okay. You're online. Please share your screen and go ahead.
Sure. Can you see my screen? Okay. Yes. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be with you today. Sorry not to be able to be actually physically with you, but next time I hope I'll be part of the event. So at Canop, so I'm Romain, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Canop. I've co-founded the company 2 years ago, and our mission is to improve transparency and trust in the carbon market. Indeed, today, transparency is quite limited in the voluntary carbon market. And as a consequence, their potential is reduced because there is a limited trust, and also there is a growing risk exposure for buyers. There is a reputational risk exposure, but also with the upcoming regulation, there is a strong a strong regulation risk exposure. To better understand this, let's look at the life of a carbon credit. Once project is designed, where a feasibility study is conducted, it goes to registration with a standard. From there, during the project lifetime, 30, 40, 50 years, the project has to measure their impact to get credits. And this process is called MRV, Measurement Reporting Verification. And today, for nature-based projects, and particularly for forestry-based projects, the data that comes out of the current campaigns is not really reliable. It's very labor-intensive and basically doesn't scale. And we think at Canop that we can improve that. How do we improve this measurement? We offer project developers, so upstream players in the value chain, financier, project developers. We deliver a scalable, accurate, and cost-effective platform. It's particularly accurate when measuring forest cover changes, above ground biomass changes, and other metrics, because like more than half of our team focuses on building the best possible algorithm with the best possible training data. It's scalable, it works for any size of project, from hundreds of hectares to hundreds of thousands of hectares anywhere in the world. We comply with major standards. We're working with them to make sure that our product roadmap aligns with upcoming methodologies. As well, our platform can be audited, provide clear reports to build trust that we lack so much. How does it work? We use satellite imagery, radar, and also optical, that goes through our AI models to produce all the metrics of interest. And the metrics are available on the platform in 24 hours through dashboards, maps. All of that can be exported easily. It's available on a web app and also on an API that you can connect to if you have a large number of projects and you want to scale. It's pretty simple. Creating a project is done in a few clicks. What we need from you basically is your polygons. In more concrete terms, what are the indicators that we measure? We measure forest cover, canopy height, tree height, above ground biomass, from which we deduct below ground biomass, carbon, CO2 equivalent, stock, and changes at a 10-meter spatial resolution. We've assembled, my co-founder and myself, a team of 11 people. Mostly, as of now, we are pretty much focused on the technology and the research side of things. So we've had in the team strong expertise in computer vision, machine learning, image processing, radar, ecosystem, backend infrastructure, and front end to make it work. We're building a product, a scalable product. And of course, to help us go in the right direction, we're building an advisory board. For now, we have 2 people on that board, looking for more expertise, actually. Maybe there is expertise in the room. Happy to talk with people in the room. And also, we're incubated by several incubators in France, also by Google, and partnering with ESA and with the ESA and also the UN. So maybe as a recap, our mission is to measure the environmental benefits provided by nature-based projects around the world. We measure, of course, the climate impact with carbon, but also very soon the biodiversity impact through tree species identification. So that's our mission. And today we're looking for new customers, new project developers, but also for funding. We're currently raising a seed round of 2 to 2.5 million euros. So also, if that's of interest, please reach out. Happy to tell you more about the project. Happy to take any questions on the chat if possible as well. Thank you, everyone. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Ligno pur.
Yes. Hello, my name is Wienke Reynolds. I'm co-founder and CTO of the Hamburg-based startup LignoPure. And yeah, thank you very much for inviting me for this very interesting and very interdisciplinary event. As you can tell from the nice brown dust cloud and the name of our startup, we are working with lignin, exclusively with lignin. And our mission is to use lignin to replace harmful ingredient in our daily products we use. And our beachhead market there is cosmetics. So replacing harmful UV filters, for example, harmful for the aquatic environment, but also harmful for our health. So why lignin? The nice thing for me is that in this audience, I don't need to tell you what lignin is. You know that lignin is the second biggest biopolymer resource on Earth that is being burned mostly by today, that is non-food, and it's an industrial resource. And if you look into the European and worldwide bioeconomy strategies, lignin is always there because they say we have to use the resources that are there available, and we have to use resources that are not in competition with food. That being said, is not really what we are passionate about. What we are passionate about is the natural functionality that lignin has, because that's the real potential that we see. Lignin is a natural antioxidant, it's a natural UV protectant, and as you can see from the previous picture, there, lignin has a very nice skin-like brown color tone, and you can already see here, lignin is not just lignin. Depending on the lignin type you have, this color and the functionalities can be very different, and that's what we're specialized on. So if you look at the value chain when you are working with lignin, I'm really sorry, but this thing is reacting super slow now. You would normally start with a bioresource, then you have a pulp mill or a biorefinery isolating the lignin depending on where you are on the globe and what type of process they use. And this lignin already can look completely different. Then you have, on the other side, the clients. So there can be cosmetics for us or any kind of material applications. And that's normally how people see the value chain, but there's a severe gap in between that, because how would the final customer know which lignin to use and how to upgrade it? And that's actually the role that we're taking. And we're scouting the right lignin fractions, and we're transforming them into ready-to-use ingredients for the final industry applications. And we don't do that chemically, we do that purely with smart selection of lignins and particle technology. And by that, we envision to be pioneers to tackle really high-value markets, like really ambitious markets. So we want to go for the life sciences, and we're proud to say that we're the first company in Europe to actually launch a lignin-based cosmetic ingredient to the market. But we have seen that the lignin is not only fit to go into into cosmetics, but also to food. So that's the next market for us to tackle. But also that we can use our technology to enable biorefineries to supply their lignin to high-value material applications. So we aim to also license our technology to the lignin producers so that they can provide high-quality lignin particles for material applications. And by that, we really aim to be pioneers and to show that it is possible not only to make money with lignin, but really to bring lignin into our daily products. I'm going to go over this slide to save some time and talk a bit more about our cosmetic ingredients. So our flagship product is called LignoBase because it's a basic multifunctional natural ingredients for natural skincare products. We have been granted the inky name lignin/cellulose, so that's the name you officially see on the back of your sunscreen bottle then in the end, and these are ready to incorporate lignin microparticles, and we have now just in March started to launch 3 different variants of this LignoBase. So it works as a so-called SPF booster, so the cosmetic manufacturers can use it to, for example, bring an SPF 20 formulation to 30 or 30 to 50. It's antioxidant and it provides natural colors. So not to have an SPF 50 with super white cast effect, titanium dioxide, but you actually have a nice color on the skin. And that's then for sun protection, skincare formulations, and also decorative cosmetics. That's an interesting one because we always thought the brown color is a drawback, but it's actually our most powerful functionality today. Okay, how do we bring this product to the market? When we started to scout the market and look who would our customers be, we were first looking at small independent brands. But turns out most of the cosmetics go to a kind of ingredient supermarket, so-called distributors. So that's what we did. We made contracts with ingredient distributors all over the world. That's our current coverage on the globe with the distributor agreements that we closed. And you can now at any time contact them and order first samples of our ligno-based variants. So that's our team at the moment. So we are 9 full-time employees and supported by some student researchers as well. We are a very international and very diverse team, I would say. A few words about our company development. So we were registered in 2019 as German Limited, and were first funded by the EFB in Hamburg, equity-free funds. And this brought us to a level to be investment ready. And then we closed our seed round end of 2020 with 2.9 million euros in total. And with that money, we could strengthen our position, build our team, but especially put our production plant into place. So in the background, you see the hygiene housing of our ligno-based production plant. So now we have reached market readiness, we have launched the product, and now we're looking for a Series A. And with that Series A funding, we of course want to expand our sales activities. We need to do further tests to underline the claims that we have, the functionality claims on the products. We want to be even more international, and we already have new product ideas for cosmetics in the drawer, which we also want to follow up. Be part of that transition, go on that journey with us, and if you're happy to join us, so a Series A is open. If you're an investor, feel free to contact us, reach out on LinkedIn or online. We're happy to dig deeper. Thank you very much.
I already have 2 ideas for you. Yeah, you maybe, yeah. Okay. Jana?
Yes.
Okay, you are live, and please share your screen and go ahead.
Anyhow, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Sorry to not be there in person, and until I see the PowerPoint running on the screen, I would just tell you a little bit why I am here today. So we talk a lot about sustainable building and living, and the topic of the meeting is disruption of the wood industry. So I would like to tell you more about what we see as a disruption of wood industry, and how is that for us connected to sustainable building and living. First slide. So my name is Jana Skokan. I'm the co-founder of Froggeeks, which is a green tech marketplace. Now it's a little bit funny, because I really don't see what is playing on the screen, so sorry for that again. But yeah, I will just continue this way. Hopefully you see the slides well. So when we talk about sustainable building and living, we as a green tech marketplace, we work a lot with holistic thinking, with systemic thinking, and we kind of tend to look at different perspectives on how we value resources, etc. So for us, when we talk about the value of one tree, we talk about the pragmatic parameters, the number of board feet, and the number that we kind of can associate, if there is any procedure for that, about the complete package of services that a tree can provide to us. So we have different services. We had amazing presentations. I was listening to some of that, so kudos for the speakers. We have provisioning services, the production of timber, fiber, etc. We have supporting services like soil formation, nutrient cycling. We have regulating services like climate regulation, flood mitigation, and we have also cultural services like education, recreation, etc. So all these comes together to add or to kind of have this complete package of what one tree can provide. And we are living in very exciting times with all these changing conditions. So there is a lot that we need to adapt, that we need to adjust to. And in this perspective, I started with sustainable building with a nice wooden building. And that's why I would like to share with you a little bit about the building principles that we have. So we certainly talk about resource autonomous buildings, biophilic design, so certainly some green elements, design for people, LCA, impact-based material choice, waste prevention, and passive design, which is heavy. You know, you can have a lot of energy efficiency achieved just by the design without any technology, any electricity, which is amazing. And of course, it's the interdependence and the resilience of the building in the view of the environment, the landscape, and how are we creating this resilience against climate shocks or nature-based, nature-caused shocks or catastrophes or events, or even artificial shocks like, you know, costs, conflicts, or regulation that is coming up. So this is what we kind of bear in mind when we talk about our projects, discuss or connect partners in our network. I'm going to come to that. What is the structure? What is the kind of formation behind that? And yeah, so when we talk about the wood industry, we are being already disrupted here, and so is the future of forests. I mean, we heard, you know, amazing presentation from Patrick on agroforestry and so much more. So certainly climate change is a very interesting element there. We have impact on the quantity and quality of wood that we can use. And for us, it's quite clear that forest loss is both the cause and effect of climate change. So we have a lot of work and a lot of potential as well over there. Regulation, also an interesting element, getting in shape. And when we talk about the demand, we see that customers are very clear on, you know, what they expect in terms of sustainability and what is their kind of implication, the consequence when brands are not, you know, ready to fulfill this. In terms of cost, it's also something that we see are, you know, is hitting the market strong. I mean, we saw it with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, you know, how the prices of wood pellets, for example, developed in Europe, and, you know, also Russia is a major exporter of wood, very, very interesting position, you know, and the situation that is being created. So apparently we need to be ready for a lot of, you know, different circumstances. Now, we heard also about the sustainability of wood, and certainly it is sustainable. We love to use it. It has beautiful, you know, properties to sequester carbon during application, lock it up also when you grow it, apparently. But what we like to also look at are the details on sourcing. So monoculture, we had this also mentioned, biodiversity impacts that we have. The demand, you know, either the expectations on the market, but also, yeah, the continuous growth in the demand. We also had it mentioned several times today. Are we ready to cater the demand that is on the market, also with wood or maybe alternative materials? And that's also the question for us, you know, how do we manage this? When we talk about application, we see a lot of old methods, we see a lot of new treatments, we see the impact of, you know, chemicals that are being used. Now we move more and more to the natural combinations, but again, it's the demand for that. So what do we want to do? How do we want to cater for this situation on the market? And so for us, it's quite clear as a green tech marketplace, very transdisciplinary, involving people from all sorts of paths connected to building, to sustainability, to holistic thinking, systemic thinking. It's quite clear that, yes, sustainability can be profitable for sure. We see increased output, local support, buy-in, community opportunities that are being created, new business models that are rooted in sustainability. And of course, you have this huge, massive benefit of wise resource management and, yeah, new funding opportunities that are also available. I mean, we heard about European Bauhaus project, so it's also quite interesting together with all the other funds that are available and, you know, capital that is being kind of prepared to be allocated in these new channels. So why FrogX and what is FrogX actually about? Now, I was talking a lot about sustainable building and why wood and everything and, you know, all this stuff. So we are a green tech marketplace. We are based in Switzerland. We are 1 year old, so rather fresh. We have now 221 partners, probably more today. We are on 6 continents in over 23 countries, so yeah, very, very international. We help businesses, municipalities, and individuals to be efficient and ecological and look at, when you want to realize a project, we consider the elements which I mentioned before in terms of built environment and look to, make your vision, make your project efficient based on ecology. And we, of course, do this with some help. We have a very broad advisory board. There are around 12 experts. I don't have a slide included on that because I'm for sure over time, so sorry for that, Ulf. On all sorts of stuff, whether it's water, it's buildings, etc. So if you are interested, if you would like to reach out. We promote sustainability and wise natural resource management. We give access to solutions and solution providers, insights, and the network worldwide. And again, we are happy to kind of expand the network continuously. It's a growing thing. It's an evolving thing. So definitely we look to, gain new educators, investors, providers, partners, whoever you are and you like to be in this topic, you like to be in this field, we are happy to partner up. You have my details on the next page. And we have quite an exciting, digital journey as well on the agenda. So, if you are interested in any of these, we're happy to talk. And thank you so much again for your time.
So, the very last pitch of today. Martin?
Yes. Can you hear me?
You are online. Please share your screen and go ahead.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much for having us. It's a great pleasure to be able to talk you through our mission at Host Solutions. So we aim at improving firefighting operations and thus mitigate the negative impact wildfires have on our planet. Now, we're not the only ones, and it's great to see that there is truly a real ecosystem that is being built around this. So essentially, with my co-founder, David Sens, we met and then spent several years fighting forest fires in Greece and had to make the difficult learning that we have current approaches in firefighting that essentially expose firefighters to huge risk, namely through exposure to flames or heat. Or we have approaches that are extremely expensive, such as aerial firefighting. And so we want to take a different look at this and took a different vantage point, which is to no longer consider a fire an object that we have to chase, but we look at the different asset classes that are at threat from wildfires. So we have typically forestry and forests in general, which are the instances where wildfires do emit huge amounts of greenhouse gases. We have human settlements where human lives are at risk. We have the firefighters themselves that are also obviously at risk during those dangerous firefighting operations. And then we have all sorts of industrial appliances that can be the telecommunication or the energy sector that are at danger from damages from wildfires. And so despite having these different asset classes and these huge figures in damages and greenhouse gases being emitted, we haven't seen an innovation in firefighting technology in the past 20 years, basically, since the introduction of improved aerial firefighting. And so we spent the last few years developing the world's first mobile and fully autonomous wildfire containment system. It consists of 800 meters of hose lines, of firefighting hose lines, that are fitted with mist nozzles that will mimic the wetting pattern of aerial drops. And as I said, we spent the last few years developing this with European universities and deployed it for the first time with the civil protection in Portugal last March. So the advantages, obviously, of such a system are that it's autonomous, meaning that once it's set up, either permanently or as it being mobile in the case of a fire, once it's being deployed, you can, as a firefighter, retreat from the danger zone. That dramatically improves the working conditions of firefighters. It has ground-based distribution of water, which makes it inherently more efficient than aerial drops. And it has the upside of working at night and in the presence of strong winds when aerial means can't fly. So we really believe that we have covered a few checkpoints, a few unique selling propositions with this system that will in the end make it easier to protect human lives, to safeguard natural carbon storage, and to have an edge on the cost and resource efficiency. Having started out in Greece, we had from the get-go a target in pricing that would allow communities and fire services to purchase such a system. And in the end, purchasing one of our modules is roughly equivalent to flying 5 hours of Canadair simply in operational costs. So we believe that this can really become a mass market product and have a very dense distribution across the landscapes that are being at threat. Simply in the vertical of firefighting and fire services, we see a multi-billion market, which will obviously grow when we consider, again, tourism industries when they need to protect their hotel infrastructure or the energy and telecommunication sectors that were already mentioned also previously when listening to the talk of Dryad Networks. So with this, a few words on myself. I'm a PhD from ETH Zurich. My co-founder, David Senz, is currently managing a business, a communal business in Germany. And we are opening a seed round of 490,000 euros to finalize the building of our demonstration vehicle and go on a roadshow through Europe to showcase the technology to more fire services and get confirmation on the markup, the selling proposition that we have. And we would love to connect with some of the players here, as we believe that we have seen ways to get from early detection to improved firefighting operations, and then also the assessment of wildfires through novel solutions. So I would love to connect with quite a few of the presenters today. So with this, I want to thank you again for organizing this and obviously letting us join, even if we couldn't join physically.
I have to confess, this is not the very last. We have one speaker remaining from our last panel, which is kind of roundup. It's an architect. He is an architect and he's available, so I decided to let him in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mensch.
Oh, that's him.
So, du bist live und jetzt geht's los.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm architect located in Frankfurt, and I want to share my presentation with you today about mutable space. We developed in our architecture office an need-orientated building system in different sizes, and to explain you how we did our design. I show you some iconographics and some examples. We have a steel frame construction which can be adaptable, configured on different building sites. So we have a raster of 1 square meter, 1 meter, and we put the wooden plates together. And so we have our ground floor, and we can adapt to every building situation. And the steel frame is planked with some wooden frames on the size of 1 meter, and the edges are on 50 centimeters. And so we have the possibility to scale up houses until three stockings. And yeah, here are some impressions of some sites we already were designing for some housing communities when they are renovating their building stock, where they have a shelter room for the people living in the house. And so for 3 or 5 months, they can live in, the habitants can live in our shelter spaces, and they come back to their renovated houses. And the possibilities for the use cases are big. We have some schools which are expanding, where we have the use case as well to give the shelter room also during renovation. And the idea, this is an example for the housing company, and we did another design located here in Frankfurt. And you see, like, the building system can be adapted on the building side, and we have a scale here on the right side. The black shape fits to an old tree, and we sold our construction system, and they are reusing the elements for the 5th time, actually. So they can construct these shelter rooms without containers, and they have the building elements, and it's a small space of storage. Here you see some examples of the construction. This was our prototype we were constructing. You got a steel frame, then you got the wooden planks, and they are installed with an intelligent patented system. And so you see the roof side, which is made of wood as well, and you can reconstruct it easily, and you can take it for a temporary building space, but you can also use it for a long time use. This is the inner side and the outer side impression, and here you see the building when it was constructed with the green top roof and the wooden planks. So the idea is to have the construction kit, and you have several use cases. You can use it as one building, or you can use it as a rooftop building. And the idea is that the house produces energy and can feed the existing building stock. And the house is producing like 10,000 kilowatts in this size, on the square size of 8 to 8 meters. One module produces 10,000 kilowatts per year, and this the need is about 2,000 kilowatts for heating and normal domestic house energy. So you got 8,000 per module to feed the existing building stock. If you're interested, you can visit us on mutablespace.com. And thank you very much for having the possibility to share the idea with you.
Another product for Swiss Chrono, huh?
You see, it was already, it was before.
Okay, yeah. Finally, my honest thanks, first of all, to Rosengreen team for their nice job. Second, my promise, if I will have the opportunity to repeat this, no remotes from Europe. I swear this. I'm really, it cannot substitute the personal impression. Though there were some nice ideas, but nevertheless the essence of such a meeting is meet people in person and making the acquaintance in person, and chilling and taking beer and sausages outside, etc., and enjoying the location. First of all, thanks again, Hendrik, for your confidence, and Mr. Schneider. for your confidence in my abilities to run such a firm. I know perhaps if I'm a bit self-critical that I exaggerated a bit the amount of speeches and presentations. But this clearly shows on the other side that the market potential of startups and people engaged with wood and forest topics is still growing. I'm receiving, my network in wood is growing for, I guess, 40 or 50 parties weekly via LinkedIn, globally. So this is the way I'm getting aware of startups. And again, the presentation of Sascha Peters clearly shows what's on there, which kind of different materials, probably gained from fiber, from wood, but you can make it out of it. And this is for Swiss Chronicite a mixture of getting aware of some innovations they can follow up with, or they can produce in the manufacturing side or invest in, and some PR, that there is a big manufacturer in the sector taking care of innovative startups, which is still in this sector a big exception. If you don't labeling Daimler-Benz or Siemens or BASF, who are still active in the corporate venturing. So again, many thanks for you being with us in this beautiful weather. So and enjoy with us sausages and beer now. See, and again, thank you very much for having me here in Wittstock. So for me, it's ran perfectly smoothly. I get again a couple of ideas how to amend the forum, being more on the point, having less people but talking better, and maybe starting at noon to be more relaxed and then running through the evening or something like that. But still, I'm able to learn from the experiences. I guess this was in total about my 145th or 150th forum I ever did in my life. So I know what I'm doing normally. But if you are overwhelmed by this quantity of remote pitches, sometimes something is going to run wrong and people are tapping along, not being familiar with screen share, which is a real challenge to share a screen in Teams or in Zoom, which I'm working on. So again, many thanks for having us here, for your efforts every time, and we are working on a better format. Yeah? So, and we both, Ian, we will discuss about the forest excursion tomorrow, whether we get it realized, we two tapping around with a forest card or not, whatever. And yeah, enjoy sausages and beer now. And I cede the word to our host, Henrik.
So I have not too much to add. So thank you for everybody participating here and throughout the day, online and also present. So just a final one. So we had so much applause today and so many, how to say, good words. And Ulf, it's about you. I would say now you made this happen with all your efforts, with also your clear expectations, what you tell everybody, and also in a manner where there is, how to say, no misunderstanding. So I think everybody got your message. And so my last words and our last applause for the day is for Ulf, I would say. Thank you.